What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 90 of my Total Warhammer 3 modded Kroq-Gar campaign. So as we saw last time, 'twas a pestilent episode as we begun the extermination of the eponymous clan from the territory of Xhotl. Gorok and Tehenwen both managed to take out an army apiece, and a single army remains, plus the remnants of those armies, which we should hopefully be able to take care of this episode. We'll see the degree to which they remain like Clan Moors did with that one little army that we couldn't quite catch. But still, going reasonably well in the places at least where we were best prepared, and I guess the same situation should hopefully happen in Lizard Light, where currently Tic-Tac-Toe is hovering, but there are places where we were not prepared at all, like Clan Rictus around Crookback Mountain, who we're still going to have to deal with, and of course the absolute shambles that Cathay remains in. Alrighty, so let's start the episode off by going after, let's say, Murtra here. Murta, you can attack, I think. Gorok should be able to auto-resolve. This is probably going to hurt us way more than the battle that we did last episode, which I believe, unless I'm misrecalling, we actually took 0 loss, so just a little bit of damage. We will heal up, but we will not be able to reach Morphific. Well, okay, that's not exactly true. We would be able to reach Morphific if we had somebody else go after him, but I figure we would want to have Tehenwen do the fight rather than force this guy to run away. That's probably the better way to do it. Another problem is, yeah, I think we're going to run into the exact same situation where we won't be able to reach both armies, unfortunately. Though, I was thinking maybe we should attack with just Gorok, or like Gorok and Tehenwen together, and maybe with both of them we'd be able to catch the enemy before they run away, but I still have my doubts about that happening, and there's still a decent amount of enemies remaining here. Although, wait. If you go into March stance, like so. You can't go that far. I was hoping that you could reach this guy, which would allow maybe Tamakenzi to cancel the Horned Ones and then chase him down, but that's still, it's still not gonna happen. Oh well, not a big deal. Tehenwen, it's time for you to fight another day. Gorok has, of course, had a lot more screen time than Tehenwen has, so it's only fair. Tehenwen gets to play a little bit. In terms of what we want to take here, Vanguard deployment, we have Agility of the Lizard for the missile resistance, which we do want. We are the elite, maybe, is something that we'll want to go towards for buffing up our units further. We do get a decent bonus of HP as well on the Skink Chiefs. You know, let's get Survivalist first, and then we'll go the other stuff after. Rogue Hell, you're up next, and I believe you want to get marked for service, because we want to get the extra leadership on these guys, even though their leadership is already pretty darn good. Lastly, you are already marked for service, so you're good, so I guess that means you, while you do like Agility of the Lizard, we could go for we are the... No, you know what, let's get Agility of the Lizard first, and then possibly these points, and then Survivalist, and then into we are the elite. I'll think about it. And then lastly, you. Yes. We will have access to Earthblood now, which is quite lovely, and we're going to definitely max it out. And we have Tehenwen to dish out the damage. You're here primarily to heal everybody up. Alright, Tehenwen, round 2. Let's see if we luck out this time around or not. Pyrrhic victory by the looks of it, and once again we have the enemy range units, which will be real dangerous to our skinks, but at least they're not as slow as Saurus are, so they'll be able to get into combat that little extra bit faster. Here we go. Alrighty, time to finish off the last major stack of Clan Pestilence, and once again, who but Tehenwen should lawfully have the right to do so. This time, however, unlike the last time he fought one of these battles, we do not have access to that nice pile of trees that will lead our main force directly to the enemy without being under fire, so Tehenwen's going to have to take shots from rattling guns and from Jezzails as he leads the charge. Gonna obviously pop that Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, which works very well for us here, buffing everybody's missile resistance, damage resistance, and speed, allowing us to close the distance quickly, as well as the ability to shrug off those blows just a little bit better. Our infantry are also going to be hitting the enemy from the sides, while the enemy is primarily distracted by the Dino Blob. Similar in execution to when we had the trees, but obviously a little bit more dangerous. Well, a lot more dangerous, depending on how well the enemy can concentrate fire. Anyway, a Flock of Doom will herald our approach, and Hanuman's going to cast that Burning Alignment through the blobs of enemies just to try to stop those enemy range units from firing. It looks like they're actually going to try to book it on out of there, and we're going to split our force of dinos to distract as many enemies as possible and hopefully allow our infantry to close the distance as well. This does, however, mean that the enemy can isolate our own units a little bit easier, and it does mean that we will have to be a lot more careful, as they can get focused down and die very quickly under fire from an enemy, a rattling gun, for example. Gotta have a healthy respect for these things. There we go, firing onto Hanuman, who's just lost about 20 HP in part of a volley, and that's why we immediately charge an Arc of Sotek to try to distract the thing. Hanuman's gonna back up and mostly try to chase down the enemy lord here. Alrighty, and we're gonna get a little bit of help from that Skink Oracle, but it does look like the enemy lord will go down. Damn, I was hoping that hit would finish him out. There we go. Okay, can't do it on cue, can you, Skink Oracle? In the meantime, our infantry have now arrived while the enemy was distracted, and it looks like the enemy relatively low leadership, especially on the missile infantry, will see them get surrounded and ripped apart by red crests fairly quickly. Our dinos are rampaging throughout the enemy battle lines, and it looks like the enemy will not be able to achieve much with its range units once again. Which is once again how we've been dealing with these Skaven armies, and probably, by the looks of it, how we're going to continue doing so. I love those hissing sounds of the Arcs of Sotek, as it means they're really working for us. Alrighty, and I do believe with that, the enemy army will actually not shatter, but a couple more seconds and it'll shatter. There we go. Just off cue with every single thing I said. Just off cue. But oh well. Anyway, with that, the enemy army is done for, and once again, we're going to do our best to give chase, especially to the threatening units like the Poison Winds and the Rattling Guns and the Jezzails and whatever else the enemy had in terms of range. Looks like it only got a couple volleys off with its threatening range units. The Jezzails, while Tehanuman rushed forward, and then again the Rattling Guns, but he's the most likely to survive all of that because he's the tankiest entity in this army anyway, so good that the enemy focused him. And once again, that Pan's Impenetrable Pelt did really help us out. I've been really happy with the Beast lore generally, both in this campaign and other campaigns, so yeah, it's really grown on me. I used to not like the Beast lore all that much, but between the buffs it has in SFO and the general usefulness in turning our weaker units like Flagellants in the Empire campaign, or the Skinks in this campaign, though I should hesitate to call Skinks weak. Maybe Fragile would be the better term, and the Witch Elves in the Dark Elves campaign. Beast lore is certainly working, and obviously that ability with the Wissen's Wild Form, the 40 armor, and the speed and damage resistances from Pans, allowing you to close the distance and to resist damage at the same time, all works really quite well. Hey, a Razor Standard, not a bad pickup. Otherwise, the battle did go fairly well for us once again. Unfortunately, this army cannot chase those Brood Horrors or those Doom Flayers down. Even though we can chase down the infantry with the Red Crests, we would need to have Carnosaurs with Bone Crusher on them in order to catch Brood Horrors. I don't think anything else in the roster is actually capable of it. And certainly some things might be able to keep pace, but probably not to keep pace and chase chase down as well. Anyway, we're going to take the money because we are fine in terms of our HP. We will not be able to chase this guy down. Yeah, there's no way. But hey, our Razor Standard is a nice pickup. And yeah, just double checking, and no, you cannot reach him. And you cannot reach him either, Gorok, but that's fine. Either way, I guess you're heading out to the... you're heading out to this place next, so you can go through kayaks. I guess you're gonna go south from where you are. Alrighty. You, Hydroxyanthropurin, I guess you're gonna take out Staden here. I mean, you can only take one, and this guy doesn't really have anywhere else to go and has a smaller army, so this is probably the better pick. Alright, go for it. Like so, auto-resolve of this. I'd be tempted to transfer these coatl to somebody somewhere at some point. Take the money once again because we don't need the heals, and just to double check that you can't actually reach a place. Or reach another army. No, you can't. Alright, stay near Oisho for now, and we shall see where Aldrich of Black Chasm goes. There's a decent likelihood he's just going to go through to Sentinel of Time territory. Hopefully we can still catch him. Just like Clan Wars, there's a tiny little bit of Clan Pestilence remaining. Anyway, before we jump into the next battle, let's see who else needs to move. I don't believe we did move everybody last episode. Oh, actually, speaking of, between the episodes I did some territory trading, so Yeti Peak and Blood Peak are now belonging to the Knights of Calidor. I've traded this stuff to the Western provinces. Hopefully they can build it up and get a little bit stronger by virtue of it, because, well, we can't do all the work in Cathay for them. We've also given the Gates of or traded the Gates of Jar from the Knights of Calidor to ourselves and then to the Ironbrows expedition. We'll probably do the same thing with Howling Rock, or trade Desolation of Drakenmoor and take the Silver Pinnacle. Something along those lines, and we got Ogrul Migdal from these guys as well. In fact, I forgot to do this, but we'll do so right now, just so that we have the entire province here. Oh, lovely. And then everything south of the river, essentially, or north of the river, rather, is Dwarfen territory, though, well, with the exception of Ekron, but it's making 4.3k per turn, and it's a pretty good province, so there's a good reason why we kept it. Anyway, let's continue. Tic-Tac, you are going to fight this episode, but not right now. Let's see who else needs to move. Oh, right, Kylock. Kylock and this garbage. What was the auto-resolve saying? Oh, right, we would lose one Huh. It's interesting that we use the unit of Saurus Spears with shields and not the ones with Saurus Spears. Oh, it's probably because of their higher level of veterancy. Ah, but they still have weaker stats. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I'll think about this. I feel like this is kind of a waste of our time in terms of bothering to fight it, but, yeah, we could just leave Kylock there and move Pyakador in next turn. We could also just auto-resolve it and trade a few of the extra units. We could probably give Pyakador enough of an army out of this stuff and what Kylock's been holding on to. Oh, Kylock actually has Leader of his kind as well. We can trade the Saurus around and then maybe keep the Skinks and Pyakador's army or something like that. He's also a Fire May or Fire Priest, so if we could build him some... For example, salamander hunting packs, that would certainly work. 1 and 2. And, I'd like to build another, but I wouldn't want to get rid of the Saurus, mostly because I just don't want to spend turns recruiting stuff. But I don't also want to lose a unit of Saurus Spears, which was, yeah, we'll wait a turn, It's not a big deal. These aren't real armies, they're just sort of there with the units that we had temporarily and are just keeping around because they can still take garbage territories after all. Anyway, Kylock was the other one who had moved. Who's up next? Recruiter Locke, Mazdamundi, Kaparaf, you are still in ambush stance, as you should be. Kiko Aka, oh right. Also, between the episodes, I decided that these guys are going to be, they're going to be an army, an actual army. So, well, they've gained too much territory for us at this point, for us not to use them properly. So I decided to give them the Blessed Skink Skirmishers, because they're actually very strong with that Blessing of Quan Chi and that bleed that they cause, just like we saw in Koal's army. In fact, I want to keep an eye out for another possible lord to summon here. Okay, none of these. If we get another perfect spawn of any kind, we'll send it with them. Just move them all together. I wish there was a way to tie lords into an army together or something like that, but oh well. You are not able to reach Castle of Splendor, but you can move out of the territory and go into encamp stance and start moving towards it. Ooh, hopefully before they build up an army. And oh damn, they're gonna have more defenses again. Alright, well, I guess we'll have to work our way through it. Ooh, especially considering we won't be healing all that much here. Ouch. That's a little bit of a shame. Just to double check, we don't heal more in enemy territory, do we? 14 and 3? And 20 and 3. We do heal more in enemy territory. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I assume it's because we don't have that minus 10% casualty replenishment rate. That's my assumption on this. Even though we should still get it because it's an... I don't know, whatever. If we heal more there, that's where we'll stand. Oh, actually, that makes me wonder. Kanos Kier, would you heal more there as well? Yeah, you would. I should really remember that. That's an important thing. You learn something new every, I don't know, week. Let's see. What else do we have? Who has not moved? Kylok, Mazdamundi, Kopperef. Where was the guy that we were just moving? Ralakin? Alright, you're recruiting. Yeah, you're fine. You are moved. Yarek, Ahsoka, Rismate. The rest of you are looking good to me. Ah, yes, you still have to move. Ah, and you are moving down to support this guy. So, let's move you to where you hopefully won't summon, or suffer rather, attrition. And funnily enough, you'll only probably arrive by the time we get to the Altar of Facades. Even though this army, I'm sure, would be quite helpful. Well, let's face it. And are you the last one? Oh, you can still move further. Hopefully somewhere that isn't attrition-y. Like so. Fantastic. As far as you can go, and I believe that's all heroes, so we're probably ready for another fight, aren't we? Who are you again? Oh right, you're this guy. Yeah, it's fine. We're probably actually going to delete you shortly. Xhotl doesn't need to move, and that is it. Okie dokie, well then, it's time for the Flyers to take flight once more and pick themselves a battle. Tic-Tac. It's your time to shine. Let's see, which is the weakest army? The one we'd have the easiest time dealing with is probably this one. 2 Warplug Jezzails and 2 Rattling Guns and 2 Poison Wind Globadiers. This one has 4 Rattling Guns, some Warp Fire Throwers and stuff. This one has... No, this one might actually be... wait. I mean, I guess they're sort of the same. You actually have Poison Wind Globadiers, whereas you have Poison Wind Mortars instead. You also have a Warp Lightning, but so do you. Honestly, either one is fine. Oh, wait, you have a Master Assassin. You, however, have a Grey Seer, which might be threatening, and you have a Warlord. We should probably fight the Grey Seer last, just in case. Okay, well, either way, that doesn't change the fact that we're going to declare war on you, Clan Skryre. Don't bother calling those allies to help. Tic-Tac, move it out and start on Ickbolt. And you, unlike many of our others, do have Lightning Strike. Fantastic. Let's Lightning Strike, and let's see how the enemy fares against all this. I will never get tired of hearing Tic-Tac-Toe yell Tic-Tac-Toe. Everybody always just makes fancy speeches about things. Tic-Tac-Toe just yells his own name and rushes towards the enemy. Anyway, here we go. Once again, Tic-Tac-Toe's army. Where in other battles I'm generally, well, really wary, I guess in Tic-Tac-Toe's it's hard to be so, considering the power of this particular stack. And if nothing else, it works really differently from all the rest of our armies, so I'm still not tired of seeing it. Anyway, the way that we do these battles is to deploy on all sides of the enemy with our almost entire army having vanguard deployments, surround them, force the enemy range units to move away while dropping bolas and bombs on them, and then kill the enemy lord with our Coatl assassins. It all works quite well. And then I guess the Ripperdactyls mostly function as, you know, chasers of units. They're unfortunately really too fragile to work in combat most of the time, especially because the rest of the army is airborne, so the second you drop a Ripperdactyl out of the sky, the entire enemy army, whether it be cav or fast movers or really everything threatening, starts trying to focus down those Ripperdactyls, which is obviously very dangerous to those units as they're relatively fragile. And they might actually, funnily enough, work a lot better in armies that are not all Air Force armies, and because if the enemy infantry is already distracted, it would allow Ripperdactyls to go after enemy range or artillery or things like that. But then I suppose Coatl and the Fire Leech Bolas and stuff can do the same thing as well, so not entirely sure. Still haven't quite figured out a good niche for the Ripperdactyls is what I'm getting at. Anyway, we're dropping down into the fray now as the Coatl are just rampaging throughout the enemy army. The enemy brood horrors being focused down by Tic-Tac, while the rest of our Bolas drop bombs on whatever infantry remains, and the Ripperdactyls give chase to those other units, allowing our Pterodon riders to continue dishing out damage rather than waste their time chasing. Otherwise, this is generally speaking going to be a pretty darn quick battle, but and that's pretty much always the case for Tic-Tac's fights. There we go, getting a few more bombs in there while the enemies are focused on those Coatls and on Tic-Tac, though he has started to take a little bit of damage, and we do still always need to be careful with him because he's just such a fragile little guy. Alrighty, and what do you do when you're a rat and you have no way to deal with all those Fire Leech Bolas flying overhead? I feel like Tic-Tac's really enjoyed his time in this particular campaign as he's gotten to kill off so many rats and laugh while they can do nothing but get burned. Alrighty, well anyway, with that, the battle is already over. Very quick one, and they all just got wrecked. We're gonna do our best to chase them off. A few of them will escape, I'm sure, but honestly, even if they do, they're no threat to Tic-Tac, so yeah. Or at the very well, actually, they're not really a threat to his army, let's say, or at least not that much of a threat to his army. They may be a little bit of a threat to Tic-Tac because of, once again, his fragility, but generally speaking. Anyway, Lizard Light will be defended, and Clan Scryer will not be able to reclaim the capital of all Scavendom. Oh. I thought that was a rock, but it's a skull rock. Well, I guess it is a rock, but it's a skull rock, not just a regular rock, people. These are the not question statements. Alrighty, there we go. That result was of no surprise whatsoever. We've already seen the ridiculous strength of the all-air army, and there's a good reason why Tic-Tac-Toe was the only lord who was defending against one of these things alone without any kind of backup, because we knew he could handle it. I mean, I suppose if Chameleon was around, or Talashbach or Kroq-Gar, then them as well, but they're nowhere near the end game spawns. Anyway, we have a few of the enemy who have escaped and we can't heal up, but not a big deal. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that we have to chase enemies down, I wouldn't even bother lightning striking with Tic-Tac here, but because we have to, well then we have to, don't we? I wonder if we'll be able to catch. Well, now there's probably no way that we can catch them all, but well, we'll probably work on the other two, or at least one of the other two next time. With that, I think this is probably going to be the time to call the episode. I generally don't like to do more than a single episode per, or more than 2 battles per episode. Although I guess we could do this really quick, just manually, just to save the turn rather than siege it. I guess it doesn't really. Then again, we could just wait for one of these armies to help. There's no need to do it. We could just auto-resolve it. It's just that the enemy will die to our siege equipment, and we just have to wait for like 5 minutes while the grudge throwers do the damage. Then Pterodon riders come in and clean up the enemy. There's no real chance that they have, and I'd rather fight a battle where the enemy does have a chance, wherein if we screw up, essentially. Plus, we gotta move towards the other threatening spawns, i.e., well, Cathay, and then whatever's going on up here, though I'm still undecided as to whether we bother with going up there. We'll see. Either way, calling it here, and next time we will, well, other than fighting with Tic-Tac-Toe, in fact, it'll probably be a very Tic-Tac-Toe heavy episode as we take these guys out, and then end the turn, and then see what we can see. And it'll be interesting to see whether or where all of those undercities are going to pop up and what exactly is going to happen once they do. Anyway, more Kroq-Gar to come, so stay tuned. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments for the algorithm. All glory to said algorithm, and thanks for watching.